special panel. We'll bring you that between 8 and 9. And then a busy football show as well. Conor Ronan, who's playing his club football over in Slovakia, Irish under-21 international, is going to talk about working with Stephen Kenny and also maybe give us the inside track on what the Republic of Ireland can expect to face in that playoff come March. And also Kieran Lucid, whose name you'll recognise, he's the man behind the idea of the All-Ireland League. He's going to talk to us about where that is after the IFA rejected the notion earlier this month. So busy show between now and 10. 53106 is the text number. Rory O'Connor from the Irish Independence in studio. How are you?
Good, Nathan.
And Richie McCormack, how are you?
How are you? Why did you say that slowly as if it was my second language?
Are you okay?
It's like you're ordering dinner on holiday. I would like spaghetti. Yeah, I'm grand, thank you, Nathan.
Who orders spaghetti on holidays?
You know, people.
Do they?
You know those kind of people.
In Italy, maybe.
Did you order spaghetti when you were in Japan? Haven't seen you since you're in Japan.
I didn't. I had quite a bit of pizza in Japan.
Was this a
more
sort of
eclectic? Every 6 meals, you kind of went Western.
Okay.
Just to reorientate yourself. Sorry, you were asking me. Japan was great. But yeah, I didn't have any spaghetti to my memory. I had a lot of noodles though, which I suppose is
fair enough.
Yeah, quite related.
So Joe Schmidt.
Yes.
His book is out.
It is
today.
Yeah.
Ordinary Joe.
Great title.
Yeah,
of all
kind
the
of
titles he could have gone with. Like, could he not have just brought a bit of humour?
Like
I
what?
know
Schmidt
already
happens.
the Schmidt happens is out there.
Yeah.
But like, what about just going with Holy Schmidt?
Yeah.
You can't.
Because that could work both ways.
Sacrilegious though, isn't
Well, I suppose after what happened in the end, that probably works against them. Whereas,
No joking.
it? That'd probably be accurate.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
That could have worked well.
no.
It's an appropriate title though.
Ordinary Joe. That's just. It
Self-deprecating.
kind of basically is the transaction he makes with the reader right from the start, is that you know you're getting the perception that he wants you to have of him. It's the same Joe Schmidt that we've watched in press conferences for 10 years. He's giving an image of himself rather than actually letting you in, and the book progresses from there. So it's he's not ordinary. He's anything but ordinary. He's a very, very extraordinary man. He's a very interesting man. He's a fascinating subject to have covered over the time that I've covered him. And one word you could never apply to him is ordinary. So for him but he likes to paint, like he even starts the book in Aotearoa, the small New Zealand town where he's from, and he gets an email from a neighbour who emails the RFU wondering, is this the same Joe Schmidt my brothers used to play with in Aotearoa all those years? And he emails her back and says, yes, it's me, the same old ordinary Joe. And that's kind of the folksy image that he's always wanted to project, even when he was winning 3 Six Nations and the Grand Slam, beating the All Blacks, all the things that he's done that were extraordinary. So but it's always been the story that he's liked to present himself, that he was an accidental coach and that he was just an ordinary fella, a teacher who became quite good at this, and people seemed to like it. And sure, didn't the Auckland Blues give me a contract, and then sure didn't Claremont give me a shout, and then Mick Dawson rang, and Mick Dawson brought him over to Leinster, and they liked Leinster, and there was good schools in Dublin, so they came to Dublin. And I think that's what he thinks is the reality of what happened, whereas obviously he was an exceptional person who was very, very good at what he did, who got recruited into these big jobs and achieved exceptional things.
So is he just quite self-deprecating during this book, or is he actually not giving an honest reflection of the last
Maybe
decade?
he's not best placed to give an honest reaction of
Well, like
who he
no
is.
one likes. I mean, humility is one of the key themes of what he wanted to achieve with this Irish team. Rugby players are, falling over themselves to be more humble than each other, and Joe would be of the mind, I think, that humility is very important, and I think to be shouting about his achievements, although the achievements are there and they're not shied away from, he's never been one to, he even writes about watching the celebrations from behind kind of the curtain in Twickenham and letting the players have their moment. He was never one that would ever have taken the plaudits, so it is probably in keeping with the way he's presented himself over the years, but certainly...
You've read the full book, have you?
I've read the full book, yeah.
This morning?
Overnight.
Okay. Did you stay up all night reading this book?
No, I stayed up late and I got up
Let's be
early.
honest, Rory, you started with the first story. We all know what the first thing you did was. You checked the index to see did you get a mention.
Index.
There's no index. So you had to read the whole thing to see did you get a mention.
I did.
Did you get a mention?
I did. Not by name.
Oh.
Anyone he wants to have
Is
a go
that
at,
because-
apart from Matt Williams, who gets there's a bit of a Matt Williams dig, is not named. It's a journalist or a pundit.
What did you do wrong?
I made a mistake a number of years ago and got banned from the huddle. We dealt with it in here, and then there was a transfer story as well that he didn't like. But there's a couple of us there's a chapter on the media, of course. There's a page on a page on what went wrong at the World Cup, but there's a chapter on the media. So it's all in perspective.
It's like Morrissey's book, whereby there was, again, no ghostwriter on it, but he had a certain amount of pages dedicated to the Smiths, and way more, I'm talking about 4 or 5 times more, dedicated to the court case with Mike Choice in the 90s.
So
That's the big thing.
Joe Schmidt did write this himself.
Yeah.
Where did he find the time to write it during the Rugby World Cup?
Well, it's not. I'd say a lot of it was done. I'd say a lot of it, it's broken into 3 parts. The first part is an autobiographical account of his life up until the point that he left the Auckland Blues for Claremont Auvergne. There's lots of accounts of, 3 accounts of corporal punishment in the first 19 pages. There's his own rugby career, there's his coaching career, there's the steps into coaching with the Bay of Plenty, then the Auckland Blues, which didn't go too well.
Is there any scandal, Rory?
No.
Because you're not selling it to me right now.
No, well, I wouldn't. I'm not here to sell it to you. I'm here to give you an account of what happened. Then it turns into a coaching manual.
Okay.
With graphics.
Well, that could be interesting.
It could have been, yeah, if he committed to it and that was the book. But there's bits of autobiography thrown into it. There's no mention of the 2015 World Cup, for example.
At all?
No. If it's mentioned, it's mentioned in passing, but it doesn't really take place. And then the third part, at the end of that, which includes a chapter on leadership, a chapter on people, a chapter on the media, all the way the things that he dealt with a couple of examples and a couple of interesting and fairly heart-rending stories about his son's illness, and he deals with both of his parents' deaths at different parts of it. It then goes into a diary of the Six Nations in 2018, followed by a diary of the World Cup, and it's basically on a quiet night he sat down by his laptop, typed out what was going on, very much run a play, what happened, this is what happened today, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going tomorrow, and he does that kind of every couple of days until they lose New Zealand. He does a fairly detailed run of play of what happened in the New Zealand game and what he felt went wrong without really explaining why these things were going wrong. And then he gets back to Dublin and he does one last page on page or two on the 3rd of November with his own disappointment and what he feels went wrong in 2019, which kind of echoes.
Are you going to read the ending and tell us?
You've already seen it. I think off the ball we're in the airport when he said what he said. It's not too revelatory. Is there any, because the diary format actually can work quite well at times in that, all right, there's a lot of just repetition, the day-to-day, it's not as exciting as we all think it is, but also you get a little nugget, and I think, funnily enough, from Maurizio Pochettino's diary that he did with Guillaume Balaguer, that came out a couple of years ago, and all right, there's not huge tactical insight, but I always thought there was little nuggets about certainly how vain he was and how obsessed he was with his public image, and he'd go home and he'd watch himself from his interviews and he'd think, I put on a couple of pounds, or... Look, I've been at nearly every Joe Schmidt press conference. I've been covering him for nearly 10 years.
And you only got one mention. And he wouldn't even put your name in.
He wouldn't even put my name in, and that's not what I was looking for. But I'm looking at it from I'm probably very close to it, so I'm looking for nuggets. I'm very interested to see what people who get this for Christmas think of it as a book. But I do think that you mentioned Guillaume Balaguer. I mean, I do think it really would have benefited from someone holding a mirror up to him and saying, why did you do this? Or saying, this doesn't stack up. Devon Toner's exclusion from the World Cup squad is based on the suspension that never happened. If that's the reason he was left behind, that doesn't make sense to me. And there's got to be a bigger reason. Otherwise, it was a crazy decision to make. Little things. There are things that went unchallenged because he wrote it himself that I think will leave readers who followed his career and I think coaches will pick up little nuggets along the way from that middle section. But really, I know very little more about Joe Schmidt than I did when I first opened this book last night.
I got the sense from that because you very kindly, we didn't have to go through it, gave us some notes of the books, some of the highlights, and they weren't very exciting. Like, the explanation of what went wrong in 2019 seems to be that they didn't concentrate enough on the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Whereas, from the outside, I would have thought part of the problem was that they concentrated too much.
In 2019. So in 2019, he kind of teed that up before in the Six Nations launch that they were looking slightly more longer term, and then once they lost England, they started integrating different players, but they never dropped Johnny Sexton and Conor Murray for not playing well.
But also, how many of those players he integrated during this year's Six Nations?
The World Cup, yeah.
Played at the World Cup.
Well, that's a good question that a ghostwriter would have asked. These are the questions that, and there's no not accounting for, but there's no explanation of what went wrong against England, or how he tried to mend the damaged confidence and the broken squad that he had there. I don't even think that match is mentioned.
Is there any insight into relationships with players? Like, you'd love to know his relationship with Johnny Sexton.
That's not really, Johnny's mentioned, but there's a couple of kind of times where Rob Kearney will make a joke and he laughs at it, but there's no real sense of Like there really is. It's just there's no depth to those kind of things that you really would love to know more about Johnny and Joe's, and whether that I don't know why he has chosen not to do that. He kind of
talk about
there's a good
the
story.
dressing room after New Zealand and what he said to the players.
No. Briefly, he basically wished them luck. You know, it's not our day. You know, good luck under Andy Farrell. He's here. You know, hope he does a great job for you, and good luck with your.
Right.
I mean, he's obviously chosen. He's kept that barrier between us and the real Joe and the real things that went on. Partly out of trust for his players. There's one bit where Paul O'Connell bowls someone out in the dressing room at half-time in 2014 in Tucuman in a real tight dressing room, and I think a ghost could really have made that a really evocative scene, but we don't know who he balled out.
Okay.
And while that is Joe Schmidt's prerogative to protect the identity of a player who wasn't playing well or made a mistake, it makes for a less interesting book, because obviously we want a bit of tittle-tattle and we want to know who was on the wrong side of things. And there's a lot of that.
Actually, then maybe a proper reflection of Joe Schmidt, because I think of someone like Brian Cody, and people would say we never got to know the Brian Cody. And I always remember Malachy Clerkin wrote a great piece in the Irish Times saying, well, actually, we do know the real Brian Cody. This is the real Brian Cody. There is no extra layer that we want to imagine. Actually, what you see is what you get. He's a straight up guy.
But that doesn't necessarily make a good book, you know. I mean, and increasingly, like, I'm not a huge sports books fan. I'm certainly not a big autobiographies fan. They are what the author is willing to give of them, and if they're just willing to give, this is what I've achieved, or this is what I've done, this is why, you know, without giving that bit of, and a lot of the time they need to have a big tragedy at heart to them, or a big massive moment in someone's life, and maybe Joe doesn't have that. Like, you know, that's. Maybe that's just all there is, but I do think that, you know, there could have been. I do think this is an opportunity lost, because I think there's a fascinating figure behind him, more so than what we see in this book.
I don't know if they're going to be putting any of this on the back of the book.
Maybe not.
Rory O'Connor, nah, not for me.
I've already read it. It was
Rory's
for me.
just sore because he didn't get to ghostwrite it. 'Tis the season to
I've
fill your
never
boots with
ghostwritten a
writing
book, and I
credits.
don't
from
know if
Gary.
I ever want to. It sounds like a
Who'd be top of the list?
for Joe's book.
No,
For your
for
ghostwriting.
your ghostwriting.
ghostwrite.
Who'd you?
Keith Long.
Keith Lang, yeah, Bohemian Tale.
Well, funnily enough, class news round tonight. Two
Not much
Bulls
news.
fans.
There we go.
Will we lose Keith Long when Kenny steps up?
Mad to talk about the New Jersey.
Don't mention that. Don't mention that. The New Jersey
out there
is going
now.
to be released. It's going to be unveiled on the 26th, which is what, next week.
Very nice little video promo today, which I spent
Oh,
half
here
my
we
day.
go. I can only imagine.
Gorgeous.
Hipster Central.
Bit of old,
130.
Yes,
bit
it's-
of old triangle.
It's red and black stripes.
And what's wrong with that?
Why
do
mess
you
with the
need a video?
classics, Nathan?
Why do you need a video for it?
It's called marketing. Other League of Ireland clubs have tried.
Somebody once told me
whose
that the
book
New
would I like to
Zealand
read?
rugby fraternity are nauseatingly modest, very transparent considering they paint themselves as the custodians of the game. Leon, not having it in Longford.
Maybe they just are that way.
Joe should have named his book "I'm Sorry," says Peter.
Well,
That's interesting, Peter.
it's also weak.
Keith Earls would be an interesting book.
Whoa, he's put it out there.
It would be an interesting book.
Are you issuing a come and get me
plea?
plea?
In Saturday's paper. It's supposed to be very good. No, I'm not. I don't know if I'd ever want to do a book. It seems like an awful lot of work.
Well, clearly not. Just sit there writing a few notes here and there.
If there's a reason not to do something, don't fancy doing it. It seems like a lot of work. It could be arsed.
What's the point? What's the point of all
What's
this?
the point?
The satisfaction you get at the end.
The diary of my
Like getting
day.
the award.
My day in work. My day at work.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm
Here's
surprised.
what
Is
I
it
did.
not, there's
I could have done a World Cup diary.
Exactly. When did you do a World Cup diary?
I didn't lie. Yeah, I could have told some truths about some of my colleagues.
Oh,
That would have been interesting.
we never got any Owen Sheehan gossip in the end.
Did you not?
No,
He left it all out there.
did he?
I don't think he did.
Well, he brought home I think he exposed a lot of people from the net.
exposed a lot of people, yeah.
Maybe not himself.
He exposed a lot of your laziness for not churning out the hits like he did.
Well, you know. I
So
just
the
don't know, I don't know if we
content
all have if we all have the capacity to go out there amongst the fans and be manner people like Owen. It's just
Oh, that is true.
Where's your dynamism, Rory? Where's your dynamism?
lost that a long time ago.
What you got for us, Richie?
Good question, Nathan. Jose Mourinho says he's determined not to repeat his previous mistakes at Tottenham. The former Real Madrid Manchester United manager was facing the press today for the first time as Spurs boss. Mourinho takes over with the club 14th in the Premier League table and away to West Ham on Saturday. And he explained today what he learned during his 11 months out of work.
I am humble. I am humble enough to try to analyze, which was what I did, to try to analyze my career. Not just the last year, but to analyze my career, the evolution, the problems, the solutions. I was humble enough for that. The principle of the analyze was not to blame anyone else. And when I had meetings with my assistants and the people that I thought about bringing to work with me in this chapter was always based on the principle there is nobody else to blame, there is nobody else to analyze, it's just only about us. And that was a great thing, because I went really deep in that analysis, and was very important for me. And I'm nobody to advise people, but sometimes to have a break looked very, very positive for me. I can say that because it was the first summer that I didn't work was not easy. I felt a little bit lost during that pre-season period. But before that and after that was a learning process. I even learned how to be a pundit.
The humble one, is that the headline? I bet you, I haven't seen the full press conference. Did someone say, Jose, when you first arrived in England, you said you were the special one. What are you this time?
Yeah.
Love it. There's some great briefing going on. There's just some great informed pieces about Jose's new project and the fact that he's reinvented himself in this last 9 months and
He's
come
found
back
a
with
new
a
way
new
of playing,
philosophy,
yeah.
new way of playing. He's into young players, if they're good enough. I just enjoy the Premier League briefing quite a lot. Like I wish there was more of it in my world.
Wow, you're just not happy at all. No information, not good. Too much information, not good.
No,
You're
it's
just not
great
believing
information.
it.
Like genuinely, like he's just basically come to obviously a select few journalists who he trusts or who are on the Tottenham beat and gone, here's why I got this job, and they're basically putting it out there into the world, and it's great. Like,
So what is the number one thing that over the coming months we're going to see different with Jose?
nothing.
No, everything's going to be the same. He's going to start off, there's going to be a sense and a kind of, we're basically going to see Spurs the way they were at the start of last season before last, when they were actually going really well when he first comes in, because he's not going to change much. He just wants to reinvigorate what has been there before and has probably lain dormant for the last few months.
He has a far better squad at Tottenham than he had when he took over Manchester United.
Yeah, that's true.
But again, he's just going to revert to type. It's Jose. Like, there is no new Jose. Like,
Who's he going to fall out with? Like, you can't fall out with Harry Kane.
no, Harry's too nice.
Is he?
Dele Alli, perhaps.
Does Harry Kane not like fight with people over penalties for England? You know, is there not like does Harry
But he's a
Kane
winner.
not?
He's a winner.
And we might smile for the cameras. There seems to be more of an
Well, you
edge.
think there's a bit
behind
of
the
an edge
scenes.
behind?
Yeah, that's the sense I get from afar. Not that I've any insight.
It is interesting when you watch his press conference, and it's Jose, brilliant to have you back. There's such a warm relationship with the media, and like in 3 years it'll be, this man is the worst thing that's ever happened in English football. How do we
There's
ever
more
let
people
him
there
back in?
today than there was at Spurs pre-Champions League final press
Wow.
conference.
They
According to
sent-
Miguel, I think.
They sent down, because we get sent obviously the audio from a wire service, 40 minutes the press conference was today. 40. Bear in mind, it's for the
a lot of
it's for
shots
West
fired.
Ham
Any mention
away.
of Troy Parrott?
0.
Ah, that's outrageous. Early shout for Rory's Keith Earls book. Call it Earls of Wisdom, says Jimmy.
I like it. Yeah. I'll get Keith's people can talk to my people.
Just to let you know, by the way, that we are heading west for the latest Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. It's going to be on Wednesday, 11th of December. We're going to be in the Galmont Hotel in Galway with Connacht's Andy Friend, Tiernan O'Halloran and Galway's favourite son, Cyril Farrell. We're going to be announcing some big names over the next few days, but you can get your tickets right now at offtheball.com/events. It's all with thanks to Heineken Rugby Club. Visit drinkaware.ie, and remember, this is an over-18s gig.
Rory McIlroy is one shot off the lead of Michael Lorenzo Vera on 8 under par following the opening round of the season-ending DP World Tour Championship. The world number 2 shot a near flawless round of 64 today. McIlroy is 2 clear as well of Irish Open champion John Ram, but Shane Lowry's plenty of work to do if he's to overhaul his race to Dubai rivals after opening with a 1/73. The Leinster Football Championship's been scrapped ahead of the 2020 All-Ireland Ladies Football Championship. Instead, the All-Ireland Series will be comprised of 2 groups of 6, with the top 2 in each group progressing to the semi-finals. The remaining provincial championships will be played on a knockout basis, with the winners seeded in the All-Ireland Series. Westmeath's relegation had left Dublin without a senior opponent in Leinster, meaning they could go several weeks now next year without a competitive game. Marty Moore has signed a 2-year contract extension with Ulster. The prop will remain with the province until the summer of 2022. Moore was named a tight head for tomorrow night's Heineken Champions Cup visit of Claremont to Kingspan Stadium. Don McFarlane's made 4 changes to an injury-hit side, with Louis Ludick, Eric O'Sullivan, Alan O'Connor and Shaul Reedy all starting in place of Matthew Ray, Sam Carter, Rob Little and Jack McGrath. Well, Franco Smith has been named Italy's interim head coach for the Six Nations. The former Springbok international replaces Conor O'Shea, who resigned after the World Cup. Smith is a former head coach and player at Italian side Treviso.
Has it been confirmed yet that O'Shea's going to England?
No. It was reported in the
During the World
Telegraph, I
Cup.
think. Yeah, and I expect I think he's doing media here next week, actually. So he might have an update on that. I might. I think I'm off. Someone else can ask him.
Jesus.
Bloody hell.
You just packed it in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Post World Cup.
Joe Schmidt's book, no.
Hangover.
You're just,
World Cup hangover.
you're literally questioning your profession, I feel, right now. You read Joe Schmidt's book, you're like, nah, this is just dull.
What have I done with my life?
You're reading back through your, 8-9 years as Irish Independent's rugby correspondent, and it's all in 300 words of Joe Schmidt. You get one mention where he doesn't even name you, and it turns out it's been the dullest 9 years of all time. And that's your
I
life.
don't remember it being dull at the time. I think it's quite an achievement to make those 9 years, although only about 3 of them are in the book. Seem as
This is the harshest review of any book in quite a while.
talking about it. Like, I'm not going to lie to the listeners.
Joe's in next week, so that'll be an interesting conversation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We won't mention the reviews of the book. I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to reading it now, just to see if I can find a.
You liquor.
Well,
I'm
interested to see what other
I'm not
people think.
interviewing them, so it's fine.
I'd be interested to see what other people think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Game of
Because there
opinions.
is an opportunity now to get your name on the back. What his honesty is.
It's out since
No,
this morning.
for the smaller paperback version,
For
yeah.
the paper,
Yeah.
yeah. Wonderful honesty. Nathan Murphy off the ball.
There you go. Done.
That's all I'm looking for.
Well earned.
Nels Richie.
We mentioned Franco Smith, didn't we? 2018 Arkle champion footpad is
Don't
back to
repeat
winning
the
ways.
same news
I
again.
know, Jesus. Especially if it's rugby, he'll be killing himself. Under the ride of Daryl Jacob, he's eased to a 10-length success in the listed chase at third. Mala Beach was second with 2018. Reiner chase winner. Balco de Flo back in fourth. And couple of bits of news on racism in football. Verona have had their partial stadium ban for racist abuse aimed at Mario Balotelli suspended. The Serie A side were due to have the Poltrone Est section of their Stadio Bentegodi closed for Sunday's game with Fiorentina. However, the FIGC's appeals court have suspended the punishment pending further investigation. While Shakhtar Donetsk midfielder Tyson has been given a one-game ban for his reaction to racist abuse, the Brazilian gestured towards Dinamo Kiev fans and kicked the ball towards them during a 1-0 Shakhtar win. Tyson was shown a red card in the game, and the Ukrainian FA have accused him of playing into the hands of racists.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much, Richie. I suspect the publishers aren't going to be overly bothered. Joe Schmidt's book will be the best-selling book of the year.
It'll be massive, and lots of people will be opening their presents on Christmas Day and seeing Joe Schmidt's smiling face, beaming back at them, and I hope they enjoy it.
We start reading it. The Christmas Day news comes on a little bit earlier.
Somebody in the O'Connor household going, this looks like it was flicked through already, Rory. Rory, thank you, and thank you for
Nathan.
your very honest review. So the plan for the night, football show coming up at 9 o'clock. Conor Ronan, Ireland under-21 star, who's playing in Slovakia, is going to join us, and Kieran Lucid as well, talking about the All-Ireland League. After 8 o'clock, we're going to be in Currafin, talking about the All-Ireland Club Football Champions. But up next, it is John Giles.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
This is the sound of a Volkswagen master technician servicing your Volkswagen using their expertise, specialist tools, and Volkswagen genuine parts. It all clicks perfectly together, making sure your Volkswagen stays a Volkswagen. Book a classic service from €169, including 1-year complimentary roadside assistance at volkswagenservice.ie, and make sure it stays a Volkswagen. Terms and conditions apply.
Anne had been training hard for months, 7K most evenings in all weathers, along for